All right, everybody. Stocks by the numbers. Welcome back. It's after the close here Monday. I'm looking at Super Microcomputer Incorporated, ticker symbol SMCI, listed here on the Nasdaq. This is a company that received a nice pump not too long ago, jumping from the 300 plus point level here up into the 400s, and now you can see we rallied up to $495.67. Up almost 21.5 points here today, over 4.5%. And you can see after hours, the stock taking north of another 50-point move higher, up 10.5%. So what just happened? What just happened was the company absolutely decimated these analyst expectations for this quarter. They were expecting $5 and roughly 5 cents per share for the quarter. The company comes out and posts $5.59, beats by over 10.5% on analyst estimates on the EPS side. And look at the revenue. Revenue estimates of $2.798 billion for the quarter. The company comes in and posts $3.665 billion in revenue, coming in almost 31% above analyst expectations. Now, I apologize that I did not specifically do an individual video on SMCI, but there was a video a couple of months back when I spoke about ChargePoint, and people were wondering why a lot of these companies don't really run over time and really consistently climb. And I mentioned stocks like Palantir and specifically Super Microcomputer, SMCI, in that video. And I spoke about how these companies are they should be rewarded because of the consistent positivity that's coming out and the fact that they're consistently beating analyst expectations and coming in above estimates. But of course, on the flip side with SMCI, even after the big pump, we spoke about it in Discord. Again, Discord link free to join in the description of every video. Everyone is welcome. But of course, I mentioned in the Discord after that happened that even after that 30% pump day, the stock was actually, in my opinion, still undervalued. Because now, even with the pump today, you can see roughly $27.5 billion market cap. The PE could be viewed as a little high, sitting a little below 44. However, the company is really rolling on all cylinders. So, I mean, if AMD could have a 1400 PE, we could definitely pump SMCI up to 50, 60 PE, no problem. But of course, more importantly, not only has the company increased profitability significantly over the course of the last 3 quarters, look at this revenue growth here. As of last year, we're looking at $7 billion. And that would mean that we're actually trading less than 4 times annual revenue. And for a company to consistently show us growth quarter over quarter, year over year, and just kind of fly underneath the radar and not be in the crosshairs as a quote unquote brand name tech company in the space, this is what happens. And this is why I say, in my opinion, you are sometimes better off finding the companies that are flying underneath the radar that aren't receiving that much attention, because those are the ones that actually could explode more over time when they actually get to reality and start to receive some of the credit that they so well deserve. And that's basically what happened with SMCI. Again, recently, the company got pumped as you... Oh, no, wait. Yeah, right. We're looking here. Recently, the company got pumped, as you see here, going from, the low 300s, jumps immediately up to the mid 400s, and even almost up to 500 a share. And then, of course, with the earnings coming out today, I mean, this is just an absolute beat. The company is on a tear. And, of course, more importantly, a lot of people may say, well, if it's up so much and it was up so much today, how can it keep going up even more? Well, I'm going to show you here because, obviously, they talk about the estimates. They talk about the results, destroying the estimates, but of course, more importantly, UP's fiscal year 2024 revenue outlook. Now, I want to see if it mentions it here because they were talking about $14 billion. Here we go. Supermicro also said it was raising its fiscal 2024 revenue guidance to a new range of $14.3 billion to $14.7 billion. Look at this, from 10 to 11 billion previously. Okay, so now we had to up our revenue guidance for 2024 by 30+%. Analysts on average are expecting $11.5 billion in net sales for the 12 months ending June 30th. So this company is just letting everyone know, oh yeah, by the way, we're growing like a weed. We're an absolute powerhouse in the tech sector. We're flying underneath the radar. No one's paying attention to us. Just within the last couple of weeks, we went from 300. Now we're probably, in my opinion, going to hit close to 600, possibly this week, if not next week. And oh yeah, by the way, instead of doing 10 or 11 billion for the year, we're going to do north of 14 billion. So you guys are a little below estimates here. You got to give credit where credit's due. So now if we reevaluate the situation, even after this pump now, this would bring our market cap up to, let's say, 28, 29 billion in change. But the company just said for 2024, they're looking for north of 14 billion. So now, even after this massive pump, we are now currently trading for future revenue moving forward. We are only currently trading at roughly a little over 2 times expected annual revenue. And of course, if the company actually delivers on those numbers and consistently beats the next couple of quarters earnings moving forward, then of course the stock is going to go even higher in my opinion. So conservatively, in my opinion, we could easily triple, if not quadruple, that $14 billion number, right? So if we triple it, we're looking at roughly a $42 billion market cap, which, as you can see here, is going to actually be roughly 50%, in my opinion, higher than where we close. So if the stock closed at about $500 a share at around a $28 billion market cap, but they're coming in with 14 billion. So now instead of doubling it, we're going to triple it up to 42 billion. Now that means we're looking for a 50% move, in my opinion, on stock price, which means that would bring us to not 500 a share, but to north of 750 a share. And of course, if we get to 4x times that annual revenue number, which in my opinion, again, based on what a lot of other big names in the space looking at how they're trading at current market capitalization compared to annual revenue brought in. I mean, SMCI, looking at those numbers like that, in my opinion, it is a layup. It is a layup here. This is almost reminding me of Coke, C-O-K-E, when we looked at it, just looking at the revenue being, you know, only like 2.5, potentially 3 times annual revenue, but the company just consistently growing year over year like an animal, and now they were slowly being rewarded, right? We rode that stock up several hundred points per share. That was an absolute winner for us here on this channel, ticker symbol C-O-K-E. But more importantly now, we have a similar situation. However, it is in the tech space as well. And we've seen how well these tech stocks have been rewarded. So I'm telling you, in my opinion, you give this baby some more time to run and some more time to climb. In my opinion, I would slowly piece my way in here after the pump. However, again, based on what we just looked at, the stock, in my eyes, could easily run into the 600s and 700s, no problem. So I would slowly piece my way in here. I would wait to accumulate on the dips. And in my opinion, you give this 12 to 18 months, and I'm telling you, we could potentially see a 100% move from this level, and we could be looking at $1,000 stock long term, in my opinion. I'm really not seeing anything that is going to slow them down. And I was upset again because I mentioned it in a previous video. I'll link it in the description. But I mentioned it in a previous video, and I wanted to come back and do an independent video on SMCI, and I absolutely forgot. And that's my fault. My apologies to everybody. And then obviously the 30% pump came out, and now we have earnings coming out here. And even though the stock is up significantly from this 300-point level, now sitting at this 500-point level, believe it or not, again, as I just laid out, in my opinion, looking at this upped guidance here moving forward into 2024, in my opinion, I really don't even think you're late to the party. And if I, in my opinion, began to accumulate here at 530, 540, and then the stock dipped back down to like 495 and change, I would just say thank you, and I would personally view that as a buying opportunity. I would really not view that as a negative. The couple of issues here are on the technical side. However, again, this is coming off the big pump that happened just a couple of weeks ago, and now with these earnings coming out, with the stock technically trading, quote unquote, in uncharted waters, there really is no top line. So that's why, even though it's bouncing around here, let me pull up after hours. See, so even though it's bouncing around here after hours, going up to 550, back down to sub 520, back up, back down to the 530s, you can see that overall, it looks like, in my opinion, they want to take this stock higher. And if we just do some quick analysis here after hours, we can see almost a straight line there. And of course, we have our upward momentum, our higher lows consistently coming in. So that's why now, in my opinion, we are actually going to form what's known as an ascending triangle, and that will help push our stock even higher, because I'm telling you, again, in my opinion, 14 plus billion they're expecting for the year, with a market cap, again, even after this pump here, we're going to be looking at like 29 billion, almost 30 billion, when in fact the company can easily get to a market cap, not only in my eyes north of 40 billion, but easily even up to 50 and 60 billion. That's why I'm saying, again, I think in the long term, I actually think we double from this level that we just recently exploded to because of how well the company is reporting and posting here. They really are just growing like a weed. Now, obviously, after the news came out, the MACD absolutely just beeline to the moon. Look at the stock just breaking out, completely ignoring these top Bollinger Bands. And that's what happens. Usually, if you go back and you look at stocks that, again, break out to these highs and hit the quote-unquote uncharted water territory, they literally can do anything. And we could consistently rally another 100 plus points here in the short term, just completely ignoring the Bollinger Bands, any pivot points, any fib levels, any RSI. Look at this here, even on the weekly, we have the RSI sitting here above 80, but it doesn't seem to matter because I'm telling you, in my opinion, the smart money, the big money on Wall Street, they are piling in. That is what is really making this stock move, not necessarily the good news. I think it's the institutional volume and that capital that's really climbing in and accumulating shares like an animal, because I'm telling you, in my opinion, I don't see why they don't see significantly more growth. And I'm telling you, this time next year, we could be looking at north of a double from where we are now. We could potentially say even we had a kind of almost a bullish hammer forming here on the weekly. So, you know, only time was going to tell, but yeah, in my opinion, it really should, even if it sells off here, stay high at these high 400 levels. And again, if we liked it at 540, 520, we're going to love it at sub 500. Something like a pullback here to this mid-Bollinger Band of 365, in my opinion, is not justified at all in the slightest. So worst case scenario, we can come back here to this little pause area that we had here, this key level of maybe around 440 and change. But of course, again, I really don't see it happening anytime soon. So the stock may really continue to rally for this week and potentially even into next week before it finally pauses and begins to sell off with, some short-term traders potentially taking profits here. But again, switching over here on the weekly, we have our mid-Bollinger Band now after this big explosion. Look at the tightening, and then boom, just constant pops here, constant black candle, whatever it is, but green candles. But you can see here the mid-Bollinger Band here, 305.5. Definitely not, in my opinion. I see absolutely no reason as to why this stock is not going to really continue higher. Now, looking here on the weekly, we can see the second level resistance sitting at 524.74. So I'm curious to see if after that explosion, maybe, does it immediately pull back down to the 524 level and then just kind of hang out there maybe for a day or two before trying to break higher. So we have to see if it does reject that level. But again, that's 524.74, and the company after hours is currently up over 9.75%, trading north of 544, and this is 524. So we've significantly broken above that weekly second resistance level. And of course, after the big explosion that took place a couple of weeks ago, we can see that these resistance levels now aren't even in play. Even going back to this previous resistance level back here, the end of September, early October, you can see that was roughly 411, 412 and change, and now we're north of 20% above that. So that's why I'm saying, in my opinion, I'm not seeing anything that is going to impede the growth of this company moving forward, both in the short term and in the long term. But my apologies again for not doing an independent video on this. But if you watch all my videos through fully, that's what I mean. This is why, again, I apologize to some of you that I don't have, like a list of points that I go down, and I don't have a specified script every time I make a video. And sometimes I just go off on these tangents. However, as you can see, a couple of months ago, I compared it and mentioned a stock like SMCI when we were talking about a company that was struggling in charge point, CHPT. And again, since that level, I mean, the stock was 300 and change, and now we're in uncharted waters, hitting 550 after hours. So that's why, again, you could bash me for not coming back to the stock and doing, an overall independent analysis video. And again, I will take that. But of course, on the flip side, if you actually watched and listened to a lot more of what I say, as opposed to just finding out whether I think a stock may go up or down, I mean, again, that's not really what I'm trying to bring to the table here. I brought up SMCI in that video to show you the type of company you should be looking at and you should be owning. And again, without even going back to it, the stock went from 330, 340, now it's up to 540. So even just hearing that mention, watching the full video on ChargePoint and hearing about the company, and then potentially piquing some interest and going and doing your own due diligence and looking into the stock, hopefully anyone who may have heard it throughout that video, hopefully I may have even brought it to your attention just slightly, and maybe you put an eye on SMCI. But pushing all that aside, again, overall in general, Super Microcomputer Incorporated, SMCI here on the NASDAQ, an absolute winner, coming in above analyst expectations, over 30% on the revenue side. And in my opinion, I think it keeps going. And I'm going to end it there. So once again, Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually very quick to reply. Thumbs up algorithm helps me get more eyes on the channel. And of course, subscribe to the channel. That is our handshake agreement. That is how you help me help you. But more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky, they're volatile, and they are very uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thanks for stopping by. You guys have a good day.